So we'll have a look at this report that I published today. The time of recording this, it's January the 14th. And so yeah, it's the numbers behind PUBG esports revenue sharing initiatives for the 2019 season for the Western League. So that's the National PUBG League, which is North America, and the PUBG Europe League, which is obviously fucking Europe, like, because they couldn't think of a better name for that. So a 5-year plan was announced by PUBG Corp during PUBG Global Invitational in 2018, blah, blah, blah. We know that. That was in Berlin. That did well in terms of viewership. The gameplay was kind of cool. They needed to sort some shit out in terms of spectating and that. But, I mean, it wasn't a bad event, and it kind of seemed like things would be good going on from here. But I'm looking at all of you spamming in the chat thinking I can't see. You just get baited. Just don't be spamming any Overwatch League shit in my chat. This is strictly a fuck PUBG channel. Okay? Fuck PUBG channel. That's all it is. So yeah, they released a 5-year roadmap, and at the time no one really knew what was what besides some regional leagues. They launched 6 regional leagues, that's 2 Western and 4 in Asia, and then 3 additional competitive regions, which were Latin America, Oceania, and I don't even fucking know now, mate. Whatever it is. But the leagues in Asia didn't do too bad. In Europe and North America did abysmally. Performed awfully. They couldn't get any sponsors in for a start. They didn't really get any good viewership. The attendance to the actual live events themselves weren't great. The players weren't particularly happy. Team owners definitely weren't happy, as indicated when they all fucking started to drop out. They dropped like absolute flies. And what could have been one of the saving graces for all of this shit was revenue sharing, right? So this is what was promised to a lot of team owners. I'm not going to say all, but a lot of them from what I know. At the beginning of 2019 or late into 2018, when people were deciding whether to invest into PUBG or not for this new initiative, they said, yeah, there'll be in-game items with your branding, and you'll get a big cut of every purchase of those things. So that's obviously a big deal. If you're advertising the teams in-game and advertising the esports in-game, then there's potential for a lot of revenue to be earned just from there alone. And then if the leagues are successful and you're performing well in the leagues, then it could be fucking great, you know. Apparently, I'm skipping frames a lot, but we'll keep going because no one's saying anything in the chat. So what I did was, over the course of the last couple of months, I've been speaking to team owners and people familiar with these leagues to understand what's what in terms of the money being made. So let's look at the Face It Global Summit first. I can't go into complete specifics about the figures here because they all had unique figures from what I know. And if I was to give any like sort of ballpark figure for them, then it would indicate as to who I've spoken to. Is it dropping frames badly? Because it's calmed down here now. But you're saying 98% over the last 2 minutes. But I should be fine now. I think we're back to normal. Okay, so I can't say what was what, but there was there were items, a collection of branded items in the game for FGS, the Face It Global Summit. 25% of the revenue split across the teams. As again, I can't go into exact figures here or specifics here, but there were decent amount. They were decent. I'll put it that way. Like the numbers that I heard were good. Like you won't complain too much. They're not as great as some of the numbers for the PUBG Global Championship at the end of the year, but this was the first international tournament, you know, that took place in the season as part of like this brand new circuit, this new competitive circuit. So there was a lot of hope. And I'd say that was a good start. That's all I can say on that. But we'll move on to the National PUBG League now, which let me just make sure you can see it all. That'll do. So this is the NPL. Let me get the full thing on screen, actually. There was absolutely nothing revenue share-wise, as far as I'm aware, for the first phase. Moving into the second phase, there was a jacket, which cost $9.99. It didn't sell well. I mean, the jacket itself was shoddy. I mean, look at it. What is the point in that? No team branding, you'll notice. Going against a promise. Didn't sell well, $5,000. Split that between 16 teams, and it goes to, like, what's that, $335? Like, shoddy. Not great to support a team for, like, months. You know, like, how is that supposed to contribute towards anything besides, like, a food allowance for a week for one person, 2 people or something, you know? It's not actually really helpful at all. Phase 3, however, are you ready for this? A baseball bat with branding. NPL branding. Oh, fucking hell. Unsurprisingly, that did even worse in terms of sales, in terms of revenue generated by people buying it in game, as well as like the advertisement was fucking piss poor anyway, you know. So that $2,700 roughly. I can't see. Need to put my glasses on, but I think it was like $2,775 earned. Split that. Well, that's the 25 split, I should say. Divide that by the 16, and that's like $173 earned for a full phase. For a third of the fucking season. Are you mad? And what actually happened was, before the report went out, but after I obtained these figures and saw documentation with these figures on from multiple people, Matt Dillon, the CEO of Ghost Gaming, a good guy who invested hundreds of thousands into PUBG, I should say, sorry, before exiting recently, actually tweeted out these figures, so confirmed that I'm coming from a place of truth, that what I saw was correct, and that the report is factual. Good guy, but stole my thunder a bit by tweeting those out, didn't he? But yeah, PUBG Europe League, they did the same kind of shit. In terms of, they had a jacket for phase 2 and a bat for phase 3, but I've heard from multiple people, so team owners and people familiar with the league, that no figures have been given to these team owners for the revenue share. So therefore, they haven't even been paid. They don't even know what they've got. They don't even know their splits yet. I don't know whether StarLadder will be handling that bit. I assume it'll be PUBG Corp themselves, though StarLadder was involved with the league and has been shit with payments, as we all know, as we've seen with the CSGO stuff recently. So, shoddy shit there again. You know, the European team's still waiting, as far as I'm aware. That's the last I heard, which I checked very recently. So, again, a really poor attempt at kind of spreading the wealth and incentivizing teams and organisations to actually compete in these leagues, which have now been scrapped anyway, because obviously it wasn't a successful endeavour. But we go to the PUBG Global Championship, and right, this is where people were really expecting the team brandings to be implemented. Never happened. But the thing is, an email was sent out to team owners, and I got my hands on that email from multiple people. Reported on it. And then when they announced the PGC branded items instead of the team branded items, they never actually mentioned the branded items for the teams at all. They just acted like they never existed and go, here you go, here's the 10 items or however many it is that we're putting out for PGC. So that's already a problem there. You've gone against what you said at the beginning of the year, which people have spent thousands of dollars just to stay in at this point with the hope that they're going to make bank at this point. And then you fuck them over here. So what they do is they create the PGC Pick'em fan event bollocks, which was some fan voted thing where it's like, who do you think is going to win? Vote. And the team with the most votes gets a bigger piece of the pie, basically. And it was crowdfunded, so you'd buy these items to be able to vote, and then a split of that, 25% would go to the prize pool and 25% would go to the teams, split across the 32, depending on how many votes they got, blah, 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 blah. You get the problem. Right. In Asia, the game is much more popular. In Oceania, there's less support for PUBG as a whole. Obviously, Asia's got 4 leagues. Oceania doesn't even have its own league. It just had some competitive circuits, which is just like qualifying events for these big events, you know, and some ESL shit, I believe. So inherently, just the nature of things, the Asian teams would get the most support, so therefore get the most money, whether they're likely to win or not. So it made it even harder for these European and North American teams to get any sort of return out of this year-long investment. And that's why you've seen the likes of Ghost and G2 are dropping out now. A couple of teams aren't going to drop out because I'm pretty sure they're getting I'm pretty sure that I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm pretty sure they're getting paid by PUBG Corp to be in the fucking game still. So no wonder they're still in. It's not going to take a genius to figure out the potential people. But there's a tweet in the article that I've embedded that you can see the entire breakdown, should you wish to do so, as to how much money was raised by which team and blah blah blah, assuming that the details given by PUBG Corp were correct, but we know what they're like, so we don't even fucking know if that's true, you know. But assuming that it is, it's very lopsided, as you'd imagine. And again, some teams made bank on this one, but some teams made fuck all whatsoever. And I think that just kind of topped things off nicely, really. It just kind of rounded the whole season out quite well. And people knew what was going on. And people knew what was what. So, I mean, all in all, there's no surprise that they're fucking ditching shit and starting afresh and doing the global series now, leading into a global championship. So, like, 4 major events, which actually lessens the effect of the global championship, because that was once a year. That was the big one. Now we've got 4 of the fuckers with just some online qualifying events surrounding it. They've actually already fucked up on that. The PUBG the European qualifiers have had to change the times already because they can't even fucking consult with players and casters and people who know what they're on about. They can't even fucking do that still. They haven't learned still. So they've had to fuck about with that and fuck about with the schedule to make that actually accessible for people, so they can even attempt to qualify for the big event in Berlin, which I think will be, is it March or April? I don't really pay too much attention anymore, really. But so I've released this report, and yeah, I don't know. I'm actually quite surprised, but it didn't really receive any response publicly from any players, any talent, anybody involved in the community in another capacity, a coach, some supportive staff, analysts, anything. There's nothing from any of them. I've spoken to a couple privately. I expressed my distaste towards how much of a shill they are. And basically they said, we're going to keep shilling. We need to look out for ourselves. There's nothing in it for us if we speak out about this shit. So that's the current stance on PUBG. That's where it's at. We don't know what's going to happen until this first event. We need to see how that goes in terms of viewership and such, because the scene is just kind of dead right now. I have another report coming out probably in the next couple of weeks. I'll say that tentatively. That's a bit safer than saying next week or this week, for example. So I'll say in the next couple of weeks. It's not dropping any major bombs, I don't think, but you're going to hear from people who had first-hand experiences throughout 2019, both with the revenue sharing and competing in general, and the promises that were made for them to even invest in the first place and to put thousands of dollars and euros into this shit. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be on Esports Insider, the website in which I am the editor for, and I put out some decent shit on there.